We've all been wrong about Terence Bud Crawford and his business moves. It was loosely reported and rumored that Turkey Al-Sheikh is trying to string together a bout between Terence Bud Crawford and retired former champion from Kazakhstan, Kazakh Thunder, Triple G. And people are in an uproar. Older guy, maybe his preparation for moving up from 54 to 60, possibly 68, blah, 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 whatever. They're turning their nose up at this bout. You look at the last bout, the last outing for Terence Bud Crawford, Israel Madrimov, first bout at 154 for a belt, comes out victorious, but a lot closer than some people anticipated. Weight classes for a reason. Maybe he reacclimates in another bout, or maybe this is the reality of his current situation that he has no business fighting guys at 54, 60, or 68 respectively. But make no mistake, Terence Bud Crawford is winning. He is proving to be the smartest and most selfish pugilist in recent boxing history. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. We're going to break this down right here, right now. Terence Bud Crawford might come out on top as a genius. I think that we're covering the disappointment in his bout selection incorrectly. We as boxing fans and purists and those who want to see the best indeed fight the best have run into a situation where if you're outside of the diehard Bud clan, you're left scratching your head why such a brilliant fighter would be choosing the likes of guys like David Avanesian, Israel Madrimov, potentially Triple G, even though right now that doesn't have a lot of legs. But for me, it's become abundantly clear that Bud Crawford really only cares about one thing: what the end of his career will look like financially. Think about this. David Avanesian, no one wanted to see that fight. That was a piss poor production. Shout out to BOK Prime. They broke open the bank for Terence Bud Crawford. He's not concerned about fanfare. He's not concerned about overall legacy. He's not concerned about any of those things. We know that he's a brilliant fighter and boxer. We know that he's a wonderful entertainer within the squared circle. And we know that he's a brutal finisher. The Errol Spence Jr. fight, that had to happen. Errol pushed for that. Crawford wanted it undisputed, 147 pounds, one-sided beating from Bud Crawford. Fight did about 650,000 to 700,000 in pay-per-view buys. So that's a great number in this day and age. And as a side note, I think we're a little confused about what pay-per-view success is today, not the Mayweather-Pacquiao era, because these guys were doing ridiculous numbers. And I think sometimes we think to ourselves, well, if you're not doing 800K to a mil, then you're not doing numbers. In today's boxing landscape, 375 to 425, that's a successful turnout. That's a tremendous event that did great pay-per-view numbers. When you start seeing Canelo Plant numbers, 800 plus K, and then Gervonta Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, which is a different level of synergy, that's when you run into $1.2 million pay-per-view sales. But for guys that are at the verge of a star, being a star, or flirting with the idea of being a megastar, if you can get 375 or 425, you're doing pretty good. But I digress. The Errol Spence Crawford bout did the numbers that it did. Crawford comes away from that undisputed with a ton of momentum. He looked sensational in that performance. And then he moves into a position where we want to know what he's going to do next. We flirted with the idea of a rematch, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm going to fight Jermell Charlo. Charlo ends up going up 2 divisions, fighting Canelo, getting cooked. And that fight doesn't materialize. So in the meantime, what does Bud Crawford do? Fights Israel Madrimov. First fight at 154. We knew he wanted to go to 54 after the Errol Spence stuff washed out. Israel Madrimov, at the time, 11 fights, undefeated, relatively unknown, is a champion because he fought for a vacant belt, but probably a good litmus test overall for a Bud Crawford, going from 47 to 54 to see what he's about. Was this a demanded for fight? No. Did this make business sense for Bud Crawford? Absolutely. And was it for a belt? Sure. But this brings me back to my original point. It was reported that Bud Crawford was paid $2.5 million for this fight. We know that there's money hidden in contracts and negotiation language where it is highly likely, because it's being bankrolled by Turkey Al-Sheikh, that Bud Crawford make maybe some BOK Prime money, 10K plus. If you want to go low end, let's go $6 million for a Madrimov, and the bout flopped. You're talking about 75,000 100,000 pay-per-view buys, excuse me. Possibly seats not filled. And the rumor from, I don't even know if it's a rumor at this point, it could be confirmed. It's coming from several reputable sources, that being Dan Rafael and my man Benson for ESPN, that a lot of tickets were given away. And you add on top of that, there was an Eminem concert to help bolster the event, and it didn't do well. Despite those things, despite the event outcome, Bud Crawford still gets paid. So let's go back. Madrimov, BOK Prime paid. Turkey Al-Sheikh, Riyadh season paid, despite the fact that nobody was checking for it. And then you go to the point where we're talking about the Triple G bout rumored. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't even know if this has legs. But here's what I do know. It's another Riyadh season, Turkey Al-Sheikh kind of playing setup. Bud Crawford's going to make a lot of money. They're likely going to lose money because no one wants to see this. But Terence Bud Crawford has figured out a way to get paid hand over fist for fights no one wants to see, and he's going to continue to do that. 36, soon to be 37 if he's not 37 already. I know that his birthday's in this window somewhere, but he has now made a conscious decision, undisputed 2 divisions, right? Why do I need to fight a drawn and it's possibly get cooked and beat up or take damage that I won't take against lesser guys for way more money? The BOK Primes and the Turkey Al-Sheikhs, they want to pay me because they think they can turn my tremendous talent, skill, and ability within the squared circle into an entity that generates revenue at a high level. Even with stacked cards, I don't really do numbers, and I've never done numbers historically. That's the reality of the situation for Bud Crawford. But none of that matters. We don't really matter as fans. The legacy and the bravado of making great fights in the sport of boxing, none of that really matters either for Terence Bud Crawford. He's saying, I only want Canelo. I just got paid off David Avanesian. The Errol Spence fight, that had to happen. Madrimov, 54, first time out there, fight no one wanted, did poorly. I still made money, and the Triple G bout is what's next up. And we know that he's pushing hard for a Canelo bout. A fight that I don't think that he gets because Canelo's bigger than Turkey Al-Sheikh in the sport of boxing. You can't dictate to Canelo. That's just not a real thing. But going back to Bud Crawford, he wants that fight for a reason. He could get knocked out in 2-3 rounds or stopped to the body or something like that. And the paycheck will be crazy and he'll leave the sport. His legacy's set. If he never fights again, Bud Crawford, he's a Hall of Famer twice over. That's the reality of his career, what he's been able to achieve. A poor entertainer outside the ring, and before you could see certain channels or on X or Twitter, bad business Bud. Is it really bad business? It's bad business for the consumer who really wants to see great fights, but he's getting paid crazy amounts of money to fight Errol Spence Jr. and the cast of Friends. Even if you go $5 million for a Madrimov, and the fight doesn't make money, it loses $10+ million. At best, as 100,000 buys in pay-per-view. Does a really good live gate. The live gate, I think, was like over 40 million. That's a pretty good number. But considering all the effort that you put into that particular production, you would want to see more. As a pay-per-view, though, with Bud Crawford, his fans bragging about not buying his shit. So for me, that's a bit confusing. I'm a fan of a fighter. I really support this guy, but I'm going to steal his fights. I'm going to steal his work. Okay, well, that's all right. Shout out to you. Regardless, Bud Crawford is smarter than all of us, and he's figured it out. Are we happy about some of the fight selections? Nope. Can he fight? Is he one of the best ever? Absolutely. I would. If you want to argue that, then I don't know what to tell you. But Madrimov, potentially Triple G, Avanesian, and chasing a Canelo bout at 168, he's trying to cash out. He has probably 18 months left in his career. And he just came off of a fight. So if he takes another year off, that's a camp and a fight, and that's done. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. Let me know what you think. Bud Crawford, smart businessman now. You have figured out a way to get entities to dump money into your pockets for fights that no one wants. We out.